So maybe I'll get the sequencing right some point. It is 11:32, so my apologies because I thought I hit the button. Okay, so full disclosure. You know how when you try to hit a button and you think that you got everything all locked down, you got your order locked down, you're ready to go, and it's like, okay, so you hit this button, you hit this button, you hit this button, and you hit this button, and everything goes and you're live. Okay, guess what? I thought I hit the buttons in the right sequence, and so of course I naturally didn't. So there we go. But this is Thursdays with Niko on a Friday. And coming up in short order, Niko Moreno will break down everything from his Western perspective on the Final Four, getting ready for the Final Two, what we think about with LAFC and Philly, and the frustration that Philly can give a team like LAFC in very, very short order. And we'll break down everything that we think is going to happen there. We'll look back at the semis and get you ready for the final. And if there's anything else going on in the world of soccer that Niko wants to talk about, then we will break that down as well. And let everything fall as we get ready for the last game of the year when it comes to Major League Soccer. And it'll be a fun discussion, as it always is. And, once again, big thanks to Niko for being as flexible as humanly possible when it comes to getting everything squared away and making sure that that we can have the schedule as the schedule. So, when everything traditionally is the way that it is, and this season, obviously, this time of year, it's very, very crazy. And, we have the Thursday Power Hour, and we have all kinds of things that are breaking down. It's like, okay, so here's what this week is. It can't do a full 90 minutes. We can only do 60. And Niko traditionally would come on with us at 10:30 on Thursday mornings, East Coast time, as he's getting ready for everything going on the West Coast. And so now we get to kind of do things from the soccer bar and the Space Needle. Let's see. So 8:30 in the morning, are you on cup 1 still, or are you on cup number 2?
I said cup number 2, man. Every time that I'm going to be on with you, I got to get on and get that second cup of extra boost, especially as we talk about the 27th edition of MLS Cup. I'm excited. Great matchup. It sounds like the atmosphere is going to be electric, even if you can't park in the stadium.
Right.
But I'm excited to watch it, man. Just looking at everything that we've been able to look at throughout the week, hearing the commissioner talk about the growth of the league of MLS. I'm just excited.
All right, so let's get into that for a second. The idea that you're having the last game of the year and you can't find a place to park, man.
Yeah, that's messed up. Yeah, that's unacceptable, to be honest. It's difficult, though. I mean, whenever you have an MLS Cup that you didn't know you were hosting till about a week ago or a week and a half, and you have a stadium that, although completely, for soccer purposes, it's in a location where, USC and in college football reign. I mean, it's just difficult.
And what they're doing at Bank of California Stadium is that they're opening the gates for a 1:00 start. They're opening the gates at 10:30 in the morning. You get there at 10:30 in the morning, you get 50% off of all of your food and drink when it comes to getting in the door. They're recommending you take the Metro, which that shouldn't be much. That shouldn't be too crowded, considering I don't know. There's a football game in the crowd that's going there as well for that. Then they're saying, okay, we're going to have shuttle buses from Dodger Stadium. So shuttle buses from Dodger Stadium, dude, that's 7 miles away. You're going to park at Chavez Ravine, hop on a shuttle bus, go the 7 miles, and go to this place. I mean, yeah, I know that you didn't have a game until you didn't know you were going to host it, but still, no parking, public transportation, alternative transportation. which apparently from some of our friends this morning on the Twitch pitch, they were like, yeah, trying to get out of there for an LAFC game took an hour to get alternative transportation other than the metro or anything else. I mean, I want to know what it looks like with the 3252 getting there early. Are they going to get there early, or is it going to be quiet out of the blocks?
No, I'm guessing that they'll get there early. They've been waiting for this moment for a very long time. I'm sure that they had this planned out since 2019 when they were knocked off by the Seattle Sounders. I mean, they're nothing's going to keep them away. I mean, they'll chopper in if they have to, but that fan base is going to be electric. I have no doubt in my mind. It sucks, for lack of a better word, for that fan base to have to do and jump through hoops when it's their moment, it's their time. It feels like it should be celebrated and maybe taken differently, from the league and from the club. I do like the fact that they're trying to accommodate them in some sort of way, but it still doesn't take away the fact that, parking the Dodger Stadium just seems like another big old mess, man. I got to tell you, I was there back in California, and getting in and out is extremely difficult. And I pay the extra money for the Uber, man. I want to get dropped off as close as possible, get my stuff, get in, get out. And even then it was difficult, man, trying to get the Uber driver to be at the right spot of the street. I'm trying to not jaywalk and not get hit by all this crazy traffic. So, it's a difficult place to get to, man. As much as it's amazing, beautiful, love the stadium, love the setup, the atmosphere, I could see where it's going to be inconvenient. I mean, it doesn't matter which way you do it, unless you're there since like 9 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be a mess.
Mm-hmm. So let's go backward before we go forward and go over what happened in the semis. And let's start with the West and LAFC and Austin. And it just seemed like the LAFC that I know a lot of folks are gravitated toward. Hey, shiny, glitz, and glamour, and yeah, we're gonna score a bunch of goals and put an opponent away. That's the LAFC that showed up for that semifinal. Was it more LAFC showing up, or was it more Austin not showing up, do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both, man. People have called me a LAFC hater. That's not true. I was very with this team early in the season. I thought that they had a good group. The only thing I've ever criticized was the unnecessary acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I believe that in this particular match, Austin FC did not come out to play. I've looked at this game at least 3 times, and the lack of two components, it's huge. One, being able to adjust, and I'm talking about from a player standpoint and coaching standpoint. They were unable to get out of their own way. LAFC was pressured high. They were unable to get out of their own backfield. They wanted to build out of the back. And when you're running into the same wall, you got to adjust and just be able to clear the ball beyond that first line of pressure. And you have to understand that whatever you planned is not working. And I feel like Josh Wolf, aside from everything great he did this season, in this game, he just wasn't able to do it. The other component was character, man. I mean, in that last game where Austin completely dominated LAFC, there was one missing player that I think had a very good game, and that's Elias Sanchez. Mm-hmm. Elias Sanchez provided grit, provided balance, equilibrium, and a player that's extremely intelligent and covers space extremely well. One of the best at the position. And for Austin, there was just no one that can get this team fired up. There was just no fight, man. And there was a point where after the Fagundes missed PK call, the team just kind of drops their head and they're walking back, and you can't do that in a final, man. And I think that was a huge component here. That yes, LAFC played one of their best games of the season. The game plan by Chirundolo was fantastic. They were able to pressure Austin into mistakes. They completely took the Russi out of the game. But a lot of it, man, was a little bit circumstantial, and it was more because an LAFC team that wanted it more and an Austin FC that just didn't show up to play.
So when you look back at Austin FC's season, taking the last game out of it, how would you gauge the growth of Austin FC in season 2 of their existence?
I think it's a huge growth, man. I think that they did it right. They had someone that could build a soccer culture and a structure and have them be systematically ready for upcoming talent, right? So this team completely failed and swung and missed with DPs, with Pochettino, and all other players that just didn't really quite work. I said Rigoni has been an absolute bust so far. We'll see if he can adapt in the second season, but he just doesn't quite look good. But what Josh Wolf did was that he just set him up with a style of play, and that's just step number one into creating a good, exciting team. So because of that, I say that the growth, you see it, right? Not just on the regular season, but in how players who are used to a different style of play, their style to a different style of living. Derusi, he's still in his prime. If he didn't come to a project that was solid, he might not have played as good as he did. He might have been turned off by the idea of MLS, but he didn't. He bought in. You could tell in every interview, every game. So you got to give that a lot of credit. So in terms of growth, I think it's been huge. I think that their scouting system has been better. There was a lot of players that didn't get in there for them, and I'm interested to see how they would play next season. So with all that in mind and taking in consideration the fan base, the atmosphere, Q2, seeing that growth within those specific aspects, I think it was a huge year for Austin, for El Verde, and maybe that's why in this particular game they just didn't show up, because they felt like they had overexceeded expectation, and they did. I mean, some of us were high on them because of the talent level and a lot of the guys that they brought on and what we saw from Josh Wolf in terms of the sign of play. But now I think they overexceeded expectations, and it talks to their growth in general.
All right, let's go east. Philadelphia, NYC. And NYC gets the early marker. And everybody's sitting there going, ooh, NYC, as some of us were discussing here on this network. But then the Philadelphia that we know in Chester that you can't allow to happen. Bang, bang. Here comes Philly again, and then Philly gets the Duke from 30,000 feet. Now that we've had a couple of days, when you look at Philly and NYC, what comes to mind?
Yeah, bang, bang, thank you, ma'am, is right. It was a quick turnaround and a quick goodbye for New York City. That, look, I never thought that Philadelphia was out of the game, even after the score for New York. It seemed like in the first half, they found space. They were comfortable. They were the more clear team and the one that created the more dangerous chances, whether it was of a set pieces or finding room behind a defensive backline that you could tell was off its game, regardless of Philadelphia not being able to finish and Sean Johnson coming out big. I still don't understand how Hack was the guy that was called in for this game. But again, I'm not the coach, and he was probably looking for something that I can't really gauge necessarily, rather than Keaton Parks being the guy that maybe would have played in that position to maybe help them more to build out of the back. But there was space found by Philadelphia. I thought that they were always in the game. And even after the goal, once Andre Blake makes that sensational save on Alex Callan's header, you just felt like this team is going to be able to stay in the game the whole time, regardless of how much push New York has, and if they can't get the second goal especially. So with all that said, I think Curtin realizes that maybe having a guy that's a little more straightforward, more of a center forward that's a little bit stronger down the middle, like Burke, ends up being someone who does change up the way they were playing. And it all goes back to knowing and understanding how to affect the game when necessary. That first goal is just a good heads-up play. Some of that experience and maybe understanding of whenever a team is off its game. NYCDFC had just made a substitution. I felt like with that substitution, not only it wasn't an appropriate time, but it provided a wrong approach or belief to the team. We're just going to play defensively, right? I'm going to bring in more of a defensive player, and we're up 1-0, and maybe we're just going to hold that lead. And that was counterproductive for the spirit of the team, what you were trying to accomplish, and then on the field. And then once that 1-1 came along, you weren't able to get out of that hole because momentum shifted. The stadium exploded. You had a Philadelphia team that was finding space at one point, but now has more momentum falling towards you, and then it all just fell apart for New York City FC. But you got to credit this Philadelphia team that seems to never be out of a game. And that's why I think that they're going to win this final, because you got to be able to take a punch in the face if you're going to win an MLS Cup. You got to be able to adjust and fight it out. And if you're not playing your best game, can you win a game? And I think that's what Philadelphia is all about, man. That's what they were all about the whole postseason.
When you look at NYC, I'll ask you the same question about them that I asked you about Austin. NYC, tail end of the regular season, Tallis Magno was dinged up. I mean, his arm, his left elbow and arm was in a sling leaving Atlanta. Tavon Gray was injured, and they found ways to get to the last game of the Eastern Conference. After losing Tati Castellanos, you got a healthier Bear. You got Maxi Morales, who found the fountain of youth, and Sean Johnson, who should be a part of the discussion when it comes to between the sticks for the national team. When you look at NYC making it all the way to the Final Four, what sticks in your mind?
Potential, consistent, great scouting team, a solid organization. That's what stands out for me. I mean, I don't think anyone doubted that New York City was going to be one of the top teams in the East. They were able to adjust and get through some murky waters, and that's credit to that group, because it's not easy to have as many changes as they had on the field, in the coaching staff, and still be able to put it all together to get what they got. But it all goes back to having a great pool of talent and a budding team, and a coaching staff that, even though had changes and losses, they all stuck to a particular style of play. Maybe with changes in between, and that's always going to happen when there's a change of head coaches, but the playing style and approach to the game was always the same. Clear attack, series of passing, getting the ball out wide, and trusting in the individual play. I think Javier Pereira had a fantastic season, and he's showing you that he could potentially be one of the best players in the league. Santiago Rodriguez, you need to keep him. I mean, he's still on the loan. I think he's going to get bought out. I'm all over that. Hopefully, I'll be able to confirm some sort of news on that. But Santi could be a MLS MVP. I mean, you saw his quality, his vision, his impact. He's a game changer, man. So overall, yes, New York City lost. They probably wanted more, and there was some things that could have changed up that result. But at the end of the day, you're not doubting their growth. You're not doubting where they're going. You're not doubting that they're going to continue to be contenders day in, day out. They got some question marks. Is Alexander Kajins going to still be with this team next season? He was crucial. To me, he should have won Defensive Player of the Year. No disrespect to Glesnes. And the fact that he wasn't part of the ideal 11 or the best 11 was beyond me. But whatever. That's not here nor there. But I just think that there's a lot of things that you still have to figure out for New York City FC. I think Thiago Martins was a push or a wash. He has some really good games, some really bad ones. So maybe you keep him. Tenderholm, health wise, is he going to continue to be? Is he gone?
Yeah.
So all of those things are some of those question marks about New York City FC. But to me, there's no doubt that they're going to continue to be a contender in the East.
Yeah, Tenderholm announced on social media that it sounds like he's heading home, and so that means I think that they're ready for Tavon Gray to be your starter at the back.
Oh, yep.
For NYC, and so if Tenderholm's out the door, something for next week, just to put this in your hat, your best 11. I want the Niko Moreno best 11 next week as a part of Thursdays with Niko on a Friday. As we talk about MLS Cup, put a bow on the season. I want your best 11 for this season next week. So write that down.
I got it. Get on that homework.
Get on that homework. All right, so let's get into, with the time we have left, let's get into MLS Cup specifically. And we know what stylistically these two teams are going to bring to the table. Philadelphia is going to run that 4-4-2 diamond. It's like having to prepare for the wishbone or the veer in college football.
I like that.
Well, I mean, because everybody's running spread, and then all of a sudden you're playing Navy, or you're playing Army or Air Force, and you're playing that service academy. You're used to prepping for spread and going. You're used to doing a 3-3 stack and defensively, and then all of a sudden, oh crap, they're going to put 11 dudes in a phone booth and run at you for an entire game, and then shock you with a pass. Philadelphia, to me, is that version of that, where it is 4-4-2 diamond, and they're going to frustrate the hell out of you. They're going to be physical with you. They're going to drive you crazy. They're going to be dirty. They're going to go right up against that line, against Ismail Elfath and Corey Rockwell, and they're going to figure out where that line is, and then basically double dog dare you with an ice cream sundae to flip a card early on to sit there and say, okay, all right, now we know where the line is. I mean, Ismail Elfath, if he is presented with that challenge early, I want to see how he navigates this game. Does he flip that card early on to put Philadelphia on their heels so a guy like Jose Martinez doesn't do all of his play that he does? Does Julian Carranza, who has adapted to the Philadelphia lifestyle and to what the Union want to do, does he continue to do what he's doing? I mean, you have guys that have been placed in to these slots for Jim Curtin. They are doing what they're supposed to do. For a team that is as physical as they are defensively, man, they go down easy. But that's what they want to do. They CONCACAF you to death. When you see Philly going up against LAFC, it's going to be interesting to see how LAFC responds mentally and not just physically to what Philadelphia wants to do.
Yeah, I love it. I got to applaud your analogies. You beat me today, sir. I tip my hat. When it comes down to this game, I mean, you just hit all the good points, and something that's going to be a key component here. We could talk about the way that this diamond is going to affect a 4-3-3 that at times can leave you a lot of room between lines. I think Elias Sanchez is going to have his work cut out for him because of the way that not only that midfield works in where Flatch and whether it's Bedoya or McGlynn kind of come inside, you use those internal channels, and then you allow Wagner and Basio to just push and do those overlaps, and at times whenever it's necessary, they actually do the underlap, and they just keep you guessing, especially in transition. So with that said, it's going to be interesting, just like you mentioned, is what approach is Cherundolo gonna go with? You're at home, all the pressure's on you. It's your stadium, so are you gonna just play your game? Are you gonna just go and try to put your foot on their neck and then never let out and hope that that works? Because you know that if you somewhat let that foot loose, they're gonna come right at you. That's still to be seen. What I would say is that, as I mentioned earlier today, we have two teams, and one team can win when they're not at their best, and one team has to be just about perfect to beat the other one. And to me, and maybe I'm alone on this, I think LAFC, because of the defensive inconsistencies,
Mm-hmm.
because of how that midfield can at times get a little spread.
Yep.
They have to be perfect in so many aspects of the game. They got to be better than they usually are defensively. They got to be able to win more duels in the middle. And they got to be as efficient as always up top.
Yep.
Philadelphia doesn't have to. They are going to go in there and they're going to play their system as they always do. They can play ugly. They're going to relate to the black arts. They're going to try to frustrate you, get in your head. And so because of that, they have the ability to just take a couple of punches and stay in the game, because they have, without a doubt, the best goalkeeper in the league. And they have a fantastic back line that can hold one-on-one with any of the attackers that LAFC has. Because if Philadelphia showed us something, is that when it comes to defending in open field and defending on one-on-one, they're amazing. So Buanga, is he going to be as effective as he was last week? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is Chicho Arango going to have to fight a lot more to get balls in the box? Perhaps. I just think that this Philadelphia team is going to do everything they can to make it difficult. They're going to be pragmatic, but they're going to pressure, not all the time, but they're going to be decisive and selective when they pressure. Because one thing that Austin allowed LAFC to do was to bring up that back line a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And whether it was Murillo or Chiellini, bringing those balls over the top and finding and spreading Austin out, I think that this Philadelphia team won't allow that. They're going to have times where they're going to pressure out of the back, especially because we don't know if Chiellini is going to play this game, or at least I don't know. It seems like it could happen. It could not happen.
Yeah.
To me, at the end of the day, if he does, yes, he helps out when it comes out to build out and spreading out the ball. But defensively, he could be a liability. So that's still to be seen. But all in all, in conclusion, to not bore you or your audience, for me, Philadelphia, that is plus 310 on this one in the juice boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed because, yes, I am in there. They are going to win this game by 1 goal.
Okay.
I'm not saying the score. I just think that it'll be in 90 minutes and it'll be a 1-goal game advantage for Philadelphia. Very first time to win in a clashing way of building a club, right? To the money and the spending and all the lights that go with LAFC, to a Philadelphia team that always plays with a chip on their shoulder, that they have based their success in their academy and developing players, and guy like Julian Carranza, that they've developed him into what he's been this year. So yeah, that's basically it.
Who's your MVP?
Very good question. My MVP is gonna be Gazdag.
Okay.
I think Gazdag is going to be the difference maker. He's going to be the one that's going to not only create numeric advantages in transition for Philadelphia, but he's going to get in the scoreboard. He's going to be someone that when Ure and Julian push out to kind of stretch out that defense and maybe get those center backs out of position, he's going to be that guy that gets in between, whether it's on top of the box or in the box, and is going to make a difference. So yes, to me, Gazdag is going to be the difference changer, the MVP of this game.
All right. So then let me ask you this. On the flip side, if LAFC wins, who's the MVP for LAFC?
If LAFC wins,
is it Vela? Do they go with the low-hanging fruit? Do they go with the easy pick and make it Carlos Vela? Is it Chicho Arango? Is it Maxime Crépeau? Hit me. Who is it?
I'll go Chicho.
Okay.
I'll go Chicho. I think that if Chicho is having a ball of a game, and he's not only scoring, but he's helping you with that hold-up play and getting others open, and maybe creating all this pressure for both Elliott and Glesnes to just be out of position and not be able to get out as far as they do, then LAFC could have a chance. And for LAFC to win, I think they're going to have to be clinical. You cannot waste any single opportunity when you're playing this Philadelphia team, if not as New York City. So because of that, I think if LAFC wins, Chicho is going to be the MVP.
All right, so what are your MLS Cup coverage plans? What's going on? What do folks need to know? What do they need to follow? What are you up to, sir? Exclamation point, question mark.
Well, we always have I don't want to call it State of the Union, but we have a really good show post MLS final, where we talked not just about the final, but we talked about the year that was, what was the biggest impressions of the league in general, the growth, your best player, your disappointment, your bust, where is league going. So that's going to happen midweek after the final. So check that out. It is in Spanish because that's just kind of the way we build it out. We try to get some of the best Spanish coverage in the league for this one. So check it out. It should be interesting.
And we'll do that next week. We'll do that here on Thursdays with Niko on a Friday. Niko Moreno, El Rolo, and W, our stalwart from the Pacific, working the second cup of coffee. He's working the Rave Green mug. He's got the Space Needle on the lid. We're ready to rock and roll. My friend, we will catch up with you next week. Enjoy your coffee. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy MLS Cup. Enjoy Choice D. All the above. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend.
Sounds good.
All right. What he said. Since it's the end of the show, you know what that means. We get to do this.